these 20 qualities are knowledge. Anything other than these 20 qualities, he calls as
Ignorance.
ignorance. And we also discussed why he's calling, because these qualities can liberate one. The knowledge that, say, for example, Prabhupada was asked by a reporter, you say that this book, Gita, has all the knowledge. Is it mentioned in the Gita how many windows are there in the Empire State Building? And Prabhupada's answer was, the knowledge that you need to actually get liberated from this world, all the knowledge that you need to know in order to gain liberation from this world is here in this book. That by knowing how many windows are there in the Empire State Building, you're not going to get liberation. So when we say all knowledge, is not any, it's not like a naive thing to assume that all knowledge will be there, in the sense anything. That's why Krishna is saying, except these, everything else is first of all not knowledge. He's saying, other than these 20, knowing how to build an Empire State Building, or to put so many windows, or to know how many windows are there, does not actually constitute as knowledge according to Krishna, because for him, knowledge means knowledge that liberates one from this material existence. Yes, we need to know, we need to have intelligence to build and manage this, continue our life in this world. But there is no point in just continuing life in this world, because the idea is to go out of this world. And so that is why Krishna is saying everything else as ignorance, not because he does not value that knowledge, but in order to differentiate, so that we don't get caught up in that knowledge alone. So we need to know what is the knowledge that actually sets us free. That's why I'm specifically saying here the qualities that sets one free. So these 20 can be seen as qualities, can be seen as processes of knowledge, and we will see them. I've just classified them into 5 categories. One is self-awareness, self-perception, and inner disposition of the yogi. And also a disclaimer or an important note, these 20 qualities are being discussed as part of Jnana Yoga. We might customize it and see how we can apply it in our lives. That's a separate thing. However, these 20 qualities in and of themselves are being listed as part of Jnana Yoga. So the understanding can be slightly different from how we see things usually in Bhakti Yoga. So I'll present both, and it's very important to know these things, because how this person sees the world and human condition can be slightly different in the attitude between a Bhakti Yogi and a Jnana Yogi. So the self-perception and inner disposition, yes, how a seeker or how a yogi or views and relates to their own identity, and what kind of inner discipline and emotional balance that person has, and how they relate with society and authority, and what is the understanding of this person about the world and the human condition, and what is their spiritual aspiration and purpose. So you're going to see one by one. So there are 5 qualities that could be, and also a disclaimer that these are not the only ways to classify them, and it's some qualities may fit in multiple categories too. So for simplicity's sake, I have taken 5, and I have, as much as possible, whatever I could immediately think, I have put them under one of the classifications. But they may actually sometimes come under multiple classifications. So nothing to get technical, because it is just for easy grasping and understanding. I have just done this. So it's not the only way to do. This Jnana Yogi, what is their self-perception? How does a seeker or a Jnana Yogi view and relate to their own identity? Amanit, basically he is humble. Adambit is prideless. Absence of false ego means even-mindedness, whether the situation is pleasant or unpleasant. Even-mindedness means they go about their duty, not disturbed. Adya, constancy in self-realization, always understanding that one is the spirit soul and not the mind, or not the intelligence, or not the false ego. Ananityatvam, always being fixed in that state of self-knowledge. So this is their self-perception and disposition, and mastery over the mind and the senses. And this is not possible. Whatever we saw as self-perception, it's not possible without mastery over the mind and the senses. Nigraha, completely self-controlled. Indriya, they actually, this person renounces sense gratification. They have a control over what indriyartha means. The artha means the seeing, is the, or seeing pleasant things is the artha for the eyes. Tasting tasting good food or good taste is the artha of the tongue. But this person has vairagya. This person controls these things. Okay, too much eating, no, it's not good. So I don't need to see all kinds of things just because they are beautiful, because they're going to disturb the mind. So renunciation of sense gratification, styrium, steadfastness, whatever vow they take, they're steadfast. Ahimsa, non-violent. For the sake of pleasing one's own senses, they won't inflict violence on others. Shantihi, tolerance. Sometimes you get, sometimes you don't get. Maybe one day Mahi wants a sweet, Mataji may not make it. It may not be available. Chakresh may want to eat something and you may not make it. And even grown-ups, we may think, oh, today I want to eat this. It may not be possible. We may not have the time to cook, or even if someone cooks and it may not fully satisfy us. So sometimes we may get what we like, sometimes we may not get, or we might get what we don't like. That's what happens most of the times. You get, but you get what you don't like many times. So tolerating those experiences, having that inner discipline and emotional balance. And how is this Gyan relate to society and authority? How is the Gyan Yogi engaging with others? And how is this person receiving guidance? This person approaches a bona fide spiritual master, learns everything, and then goes on to practice. This Jnana Yogi, because as process of Jnana Yoga is highly tilted towards renunciation, they're disinterested from mass association. They're not social. A Jnana Yogi is not a social person. They don't do congregational Jnana Yoga. Now we do, right? Congregational chanting, Sankirtan. The Jnana Yogis are not like, okay, let's sit and meditate together in a circle. That's not the process for a Jnana Yogi. They all stay separately. Even you go to Himalayas, you will see one yogi sitting here, another yogi sitting there. It's a individual process. It's a process of practicing it alone. So these people are usually disinterested in mass association. They are clean, arjavam, they keep their life very simple. Freedom from entanglement with family and home, because this person, one of the important processes for Jnana Yoga is to give up everything, home, everything, and go to forest. So they are free from those factors. But it's not the same for a Bhakti Yogi can stay at home and perfect their lives. Well, Hare Krishna.
When you mentioned that the Jnani must renounce everything because in order to not aggravate their senses, but at the same time they're practicing tolerance. So aren't they like opposite? Because if you are practicing tolerance, then no matter what happens, you will not be enchanted, we can say, by whatever you for example. So then why renounce them? Both of them are opposite, like in the opposite direction, don't you think?
That is why again I'm saying Jnana Yoga is the process of external renunciation. It is a prerequisite that for that process. External renunciation is the first
But
step.
external, yes. However, the external renunciation is there also for not to the senses. But then at the same time, if we are practicing the art of tolerance, like for example, disinterest in mass association, if I'm practicing the art of not being affected by whatever bad things someone says to me, abusive.
Again, you are applying it for your immediate life. These qualities are for a Jnana Yogi who's living in the forest.
Okay.
So understand the framework. You can adapt it to your life to whatever extent it suits. But this framework Krishna is giving for a Jnana Yogi who's living in a forest. Because Arjuna is too eager to go to the forest, right? So he's explaining what it takes actually. So that is why again I'm mentioning we don't need to confuse these qualities as something that we have to apply on ourselves. You can take what is useful from this section, but these qualities are specifically as part of Jnana Yoga. It is being discussed as for a Jnana Yogi. And Jnana Yoga, the context is the external renunciation is the first step and is a must. There is no question of not renouncing externally in Jnana Yoga. Am I making sense?
Yes, yes, thank you.
So I'm also thinking for them, the external renunciation is must in the process in the starting because they don't have anything superpower. I mean to say, like for us, like Krishna is there in Bhakti Yoga since beginning. We are like praying and Krishna is assisting us, right? For them, it's like so they don't have any connection to the Supreme Lord yet, right? So they need to renounce fast to actually get into that process because that's otherwise they may not able to progress it. I'm thinking maybe that's the reason that they need to, that's a must for them actually.
Thank you, Harshji. If you see in the Bhagavatam also, like Shukadeva Goswami, he just leaves home immediately after birth because there is a strong, in his case, he is a perfected soul. So he has a strong human realization already. So everything else, they have an X-ray vision to see, oh, this is all temporary. It's all going to go away anyway. On the level of soul, nothing, all of these things don't matter. So it's a more of a very that's why it's focused on detachment. That process is focused on detachment. Detachment is the bread and butter of Jnana Yoga. And if there is a practitioner, if they may not be perfected like Shukadeva Goswami, if they are practicing Jnana Yoga, they will always engage in knowledge. That is why it is called as Jnana Yoga. If they have not yet come to the level of leaving everything and going to the forest, then they continue to work in a detached way. Nishkam Karma Yoga is a must for Jnana Yoga. That is why Krishna is telling Arjuna, you want to run away to the forest. If you won't practice Nishkama Karma Yoga, you won't be able to tolerate that process of going to the forest. So that's why the Jnana Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga is a must. They might have worked either in this life or in the previous life, have achieved that consciousness of a complete detachment, even while working in this world. So the natural person is so disinterested from everything in the world that they could just give it up and go to the forest and be peaceful. So they may have some realization of the higher, what you call absolute truth, but maybe in the form of Brahman or Paramatma, may not be in the form of a personal Godhead.
So
They
that
do
means
have
like
some idea of a higher power. They are not like, it's not that they have no spiritual consciousness, but they may not have Krishna consciousness. They may have an impersonal Brahman attitude or like a Paramatma inclination.
yeah, I'm thinking about like even in the present world, right? Most of them don't follow that Nishkama Karma Yoga, but immediately go into that the Gnana Yoga part, immediately do renunciation, right? Like the examples of this Naga Babas and all, right? They need to actually first, for them to enter into that thing, they need to first renounce everything and right and have like strict whatever the things that you mentioned, right? About not associating mass association, not having mass
But
association,
believe
right?
me,
Simply.
there must be something from the past life. It's a very extreme path. Who would be able to survive that?
Yeah,
Who
yeah,
would even have an inclination to give up everything and go to a forest? So there must be something from the past life. It's not going
okay.
to be very easy. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's not a joke. You and me can sit and chant
yeah,
in the
yeah.
beginning stages at home, and we may
Mm.
just assume ourselves as like very like a good spiritual practitioners. That Prabhu has made it very easy for us, and it is a very powerful process because it's working on the level of consciousness and gives a result very quickly. Even in a very few months of chanting can actually bring us a lot of spiritual advancement, especially in the beginning. It can be like tremendous amount of difference it can make. However, to also see in the path of Jnana Yoga, it's crazy. Who would want to go to the forest, give up everything and go to the forest and be able to sustain it? So they do have some amount of spiritual consciousness and something from a past life. There must be some amount of inclination and detachment and conviction. However, the processes are different and the emphasis is extremely different between the two paths. So I wouldn't want to show them down. At the same time, it's not very easy. At the same time, it's too hard. You don't need to take unnecessary trouble so much.
So,
Bhagavatam
so
also
that
says it's too much trouble for too little achievement.
so that means, do you think is it one has to go through either this lifetime or previous lifetimes to go to Gnana Yoga? They would have done. They need to do the Nishkama Karma Yoga first, or like Gnana Yoga can be a separate path. Starts with it.
No, Gnana Karma is a prerequisite for Jnana Yoga.
Okay.
Either in this life or you need to have that level of consciousness.
Okay.
Otherwise, then you won't be able to make smooth achieve advancement in the forest.
Okay. Unless they're very
You will spend
determined
all
or
your
something.
time collecting
Correct.
fruits and roots in the forest because you are so worried about eating.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if someone wants to make advancement, then they
Mm.
need to have that the minimum is all these qualities. Otherwise, there is no point in going to the forest.
Gosh.
Either you create it in, yeah, either you achieve it in this life, or you already have come with that package with your birth because of past life investment.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And that is why Krishna in the 12th chapter, he clearly said, yeah, both, who's better, personal worshipper or impersonal worshipper? He says, I would personally prefer the personal worshipper, though the impersonal worship, they also can achieve perfection, but he says it's too difficult. He says for someone who is embodied, it's going to be very difficult. 12.5. He says, means for someone who is embodied, worshipping something which is all pervasive can be very difficult to go there, take that path.
That means Krishna is actually helping more interest, giving more interest to the Bhakti Yoga.
Exactly. That's what Krishna says in 12.6 and 7. He says, if you take to Brahman path, it is your ability to achieve Brahman. But when you take to Bhakti, you are raising your hands, but I am also coming down to pull your hand out. If you engage yourself in Bhakti, I give you guarantee, I will pull you out of this ocean of material existence. So there is a partnership here. But in impersonal, the Brahman does not have reciprocation. And that particular, while discussing that, I gave this analogy that if there is a well, and if there is in India, there are open wells on the ground level, sometimes in villages, because they use it for irrigation. It is just an open. So if you just keep walking, and if you're not careful, you can fall into that huge well. So imagine if such a well is there, and on next to they have a column which is erected, and there is a rope which is tied into it, and the ropes are dropped into the well. So just in case if you fall into you can hold on to the rope and come up. So they can create such facilities in the villages. However, it is helpful, you won't drown, but it is up to your physical strength to climb out of that. But imagine in that place, if a person is dropping the rope for you to come out, they will also pull you out. All you have to do is you hold on to the rope, and they can actually help pull you out. So there is a difference between personal and impersonal worship. Brahman is like, it drops you, it gives you a process. This is Jnana Yoga process. You go based on your own effort, you come up to you achieve liberation based on your personal effort. But Bhakti Yoga is like Krishna is standing there and dropping the rope, and he is also going to actively pull you out. All you have to do is hold on to that rope. So we have to do our sadhana, and Krishna will take care of the rest. So that partnership is there it's more personal in Bhakti Yoga.
So that means like whatever the qualities that Krishna said here, for Bhakti Yoga, maybe they're not the starting point, but ultimately even Bhakti Yogis needs to get these qualities, right?
Yes.
To achieve the perfection, right?
Yes.
But for Gnana, this is the starting point, otherwise they can't progress.
Yes.
Okay.
Because you have to go to the forest, right? It's a serious.
Yes. Yeah.
So all of these processes of Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, they will all make a person humble. They will all make a person egoless. They will all make a person detached. However, there is still going to be very different. The attitude is going to be different. The Karma Yogi, I really wanted to do a whole session on those differences. Like people may think, oh, here also humility is listed, and Bhakti Yoga also humility is listed. Because if you see 12th chapter, in the previous chapter, Krishna had gave again around, I'm not sure the number, maybe around 20 qualities. From the 12.13 to 20, he listed. And there also the first quality he listed was like non-enviousness as the first quality he lists. These qualities all may look common, but still there is a grain of difference in them. So we will discuss that maybe in one of the future sessions.
They may not be prerequisites. Those are
it is not a prerequisite, but even when it manifests differently, the humility of a Bhakti Yogi is that I am Anu, Krishna is Vibhu. But the humility of a Jnani can be different. The humility of a Jnana Yogi can be like, I am qualitatively one with the Supreme, but I mean, like, they may realize their own smallness, but they may not realize the greatness of God in itself. They may realize that they are small, but they may not fully acknowledge the greatness of Krishna as a person. So we will take that as it would be an interesting session to compare the attitude of a Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, and Bhakti Yogi. Even though they are all like humble, even though they are all detached, what exactly is their detachment means, what exactly their humility means. We can take up that separately.
Yeah, I have one question, Roji.
Yes.
There is one sloka, right, where Krishna says Karma Yoga Vishishyate, right? Karma Yoga.
Yes, 5 point. Yes.
Karma Yoga Vishishyate. Yeah, so in that he explains that Karma Yoga is the main superior one, right? Main superior one. So is there any verse where he said he differentiated between Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga like that?
Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Within the Bhagavad Gita, in terms of its progression, it is very obvious, because between karma and jnana, Krishna prefers karma yoga, based on the verse you quoted, right?
Yeah, like in between sannyasa and karma yoga, which
Yeah,
one
that
is
is sannyasa is usually the Jnana Yoga process actually.
renunciation? Yeah.
Yeah. So between Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna actually prefers Karma Yoga. Even though in the Yoga ladder, we keep Karma Yoga below, Jnana Yoga next, and then the Bhakti Yoga. In terms of Krishna's preference, he prefers Karma over Jnana. And between Jnana and Bhakti, in the 12th chapter, he preferred Bhakti. And you are asking, is there a specific verse where Krishna compares Bhakti and prefers Bhakti? Is that the question? In terms of the logical flow of the Bhagavad Gita, it is more implicit. I can go back and look exactly in the 18th chapter. If there is anything, it should be in the 18th chapter. I can look at it. I'm not sure externally if it is compared in the Bhagavad Gita, but in the Bhagavatam, for sure it is there. Now, that verse compares karma with bhakti for sure. Brahma's prayers also compares karma and bhakti. But within the Bhagavad Gita, in the more of the flow, the logical flow, it is very clear. Krishna prefers the over karma yoga.
And in the Bhakti Yoga, we do Nishkama Karma Yoga. We just
No, our Nishkama Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga may not be exactly the same because Nishkama Karma Yoga is included within Bhakti Yoga. But a Nishkama Karma Yogi need not be like a practicing Bhakti Yogi.
Yeah, but we do our activity, but we'll
dedicated to Krishna. So that does not become Nishkam Karma Yoga. That becomes Bhakti Yoga actually. Like when you say, yeah, that is 9.27, I think, writes a purport saying that verse is actually Nishkam Karma Yoga. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you give in charity, you do it as an offering to me. That is called as Nishkam Karma Yoga. The previous verse, he says that is more of Bhakti Yoga because we do certain things because we have to live in this world, and then we also offer it to Krishna. So that comes more in the Nishkama Karma Yoga, generally by definition. Swami gives another understanding where he says Bhakti, sorry, that's not Sangha and Swara. He gives three categories of Bhakti. It means our hearing and chanting Bhagavatam. Bhakti is called as, is means, say for example, is my laptop engaged in devotional service? Because I'm using it to, using it, it can be. But in itself, having a laptop is not necessarily a devotional service. But because it is in connection with devotional service, it can become considered as devotional service. Like me learning Canva may not be a devotional service, but because I'm using it for making a devotional presentation and engaging in bhakti, it could be called as, okay, I spent my time learning Canva. It's not away from my bhakti. Like me bathing in the morning, because I have to go do deity worship, my brushing, my going to washroom, and my my bathing, they can become part of deity worship. Because I'm doing it for the before worshiping, I'm thinking, oh, I have to get ready so I can go and actually worship the deities. So in the Pancharatra, that becomes a part of your bathing. Your sleeping also becomes part of your bhakti. When your attitude is tomorrow morning, I want to get up and serve the Lord, then your sleep also becomes devotional service. But these are not, in general, my sleeping cannot be devotion service. Chakresh cannot say, I'll go to bed. That's the best form of devotion service. When it is connected with a service, then it can become devotional service. In and of itself, those activities may not be devotional. Bathing, brushing, sleeping, evacuating, learning some technology, they may not become devotional service in and of itself. But in connection with bhakti, they can become bhakti. So that is why what we do is not necessarily Nishkama Karma Yoga. When our purpose is become more and more Krishna conscious, to that extent, everything we do, you are cooking at home to feed your kids and Prabhuji and yourself, it is also bhakti. It's not a general household chore or a part of your day, because you have deities and you offer to them, you make an offering. It can become devotional. That particular action of you keeping up your home, you doing laundry, you worshipping, you cooking, cleaning, all of those things becomes as part of Bhakti Yoga, but it is not an alternate to our chanting and worship.
Like, how can I see the difference in Bhakti Yoga, right? In the Bhakti Yoga, if you don't do the Nishkama Karma Yoga, how can it become Bhakti Yoga? If I'm not able to, like, think that the whatever fruits are coming, it's just because of Krishna, and then I'm doing this work for Krishna, but I don't want the fruits for my enjoyment. I'm not thinking like that. How can it become Bhakti Yoga? So it is inbuilt, right? Nishkam is inbuilt in the Bhakti Yoga.
Because a Nishkam Karma Yogi does not have a full idea of personal Godhead. Karma Yoga, if you read through the whole chapter of chapter 3, there is very less reference to personal connection.
Then how do you think that I don't want these fruits? If you are not giving that fruits to somebody, how can you think that I don't want this fruit?
Because this person may have a generic idea of Godhead. They may not have a clear idea of personal Godhead and personal relationship. That is why if you see Karma Yoga's result is usually liberation from sinful reactions. That's what, if you read many verses in the Bhagavad Gita which relates to Karma Yoga, usually the result is not achieving love of God or anything like that. It is usually what you call liberation from sinful reactions, freedom from sinful reactions. Because we are reading from Prabhupada, the differences between Karma Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are all blurred in the explanation of Bhagavad Gita style, because he's making everything Krishna conscious and presenting us. But traditionally, if you see a Nishkama Karma Yogi, they are not going to be very much dedicated to any particular deity right away. It's the consciousness. Everything belongs to God, everything He has given. So they may have an active understanding of everything comes from God, but they may not have an active relationship with God other than their work. So let me give you a simple explanation between Nishkama Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. The main attitude difference is the Nishkama Karma Yogi is attached to the work itself. They are attached to the work itself in terms of, if an artist, they are very particular about their art. They want to do art, and they also on the side will dedicate it after doing that. But for a Bhakti Yogi, they will do whatever it takes to please Krishna.
Okay.
So as a practicing devotee, we may have the attitude of a Nishkama Karma Yogi. It is possible. We may be attached to, I'm an artist, so I want to somehow or other continue to do art because I'm still attached to those exhilarating experiences I get in making art and all of that. But I may also dovetail it. I may now make a card and give it to devotees. I may just do something and accommodate it within devotional service. But to go to another level where I only do whatever Krishna wants me to do, that's a very high level of Bhakti Yoga. So in the beginning, we may not see an exact difference between these attitudes, but still our attitude is, I will want to do it for the pleasure of Krishna, is slightly different from a Nishkam Karma Yogi who does not exactly have a personal relationship with personal God.
In the Nishkam also, it's like a Nishka, like without attachment to that work.
Yes, that's all. There is no exact dedication part is little less. We have been like, the dedication part is there. The dedication part is mostly through non-attachment. I'm not sure if I'm making sense or complicating it.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So this person does accept a spiritual master and they are disinterested from mass association, cleanliness, simplicity, and freedom from entanglement with family and home, because renunciation is an external requirement for a Jnana Yogi. And how do they understand world? They see the world in a very negative lens. Janma Mrityu, it's an X-ray vision. They look around the world and they see, oh wow, this world is all full of misery. Yogi may actually sometimes have this kind of an attitude, but in general, they say, have you heard this verse by Prabhupada? What is the attitude of a follower of Lord Chaitanya? For them, wish that this world is filled with happiness. Here a Jnana Yogi is seeing, oh, Janma Mritanam, this world is a place of misery. So the understanding is, this person, it's not a bad understanding, it's a right understanding. This world is really a dukkha dosha. Means it is filled with the problems of misery, of birth, death, old age, and disease. However, when a person has become completely Krishna consciousness, they are seeing spiritual world in a different perspective. They are seeing everything in connection with Krishna. So they, on that level of consciousness, they see and they see the senses have lost their ability to distract them. So it's a different level of consciousness. A practicing devotee cannot act, oh, Vishnu, let me go out and party. No, it's not like that. That's not the understanding of Vishnu. It's a spiritual consciousness. They just start seeing everything as Vrindavan, everything as Krishna. That's a very high level. So that is why, as a Jnani, Prabhupada many times tells in the lectures, see the miseries of this world. Again, he will say, don't think that this world is for enjoyment. This world is filled with misery of old age, birth, death, and disease. Why Prabhupada is telling us? Because we have not still achieved perfectional consciousness. So we need to see the miseries of this world. So that's why Prabhupada a lot of times quoted this verse. Though it is part of the Jnana Yoga process, why Prabhupada is saying, because if we don't have detachment, we won't start chanting. And even while chanting, we may become too much attached to the world, because the danger of Bhakti Yoga is you live in home, you live in this world, so there is a lot of possibility for getting distracted. We say, oh, I'm using this laptop for a devotional purpose, and then after the class is over, we may just waste our time sitting with the laptop. So the danger is there because we are constantly dealing with sense objects. That's why we have to be aware of the distractions. And yes, asakti, because this person, Gyan Yogi, is non-attached in general. And I'm running out of time. I'm just going to go quick. This is the last classification. And Maicha means this person is using bhakti as one part of Jnana Yoga. Please know, this person is not an alloyed devotee. Krishna is saying, even a Jnana Yogi has to accept to some level of Bhakti Yoga in order for their practice to become perfect. But they will use Bhakti Yoga as one of the means to achieve a goal. They will use it. Oh, okay. You go to even Mayavadi ashrams like Govardhan, Sringeri Mutt, and what other mutts, famous mutt, Peet in Kashmir, and the Puri Mutt. Yeah, the Puri Govardhan Mutt, or the Dwarka. What is the Dwarka Mutt called? Okay. So these four directions, even if you go to those mutts, they will have a presiding deity there that they are worshipping. Sometimes you will see them worshipping Radha and Krishna also. Jayapatak Maharaj once went to this Govardhan Mutt, and then the head of that Govardhan Mutt took him inside and showed him that how he personally, his personal worshipable deity is Radha and Krishna. And he was so surprised. Like, how is a Mayavadi worshipping Radha and Krishna deity? And the way they were decorating and the way they were worshipping was so impressed. And he was so touched, and he was so like touched. And then he was asking them, and this sannyasi went on to explain that how now that I'm worshipping this deity, and eventually I'll realize I am this deity. And that's when he realized, oh, externally everything looks same, but internally the attitude is so different. So ahankara upasana, it is called as. Means I worship now, but eventually I realize I am that Nara. So the attitude is different. Externally, the worship may be there, the bhakti may be there. So even this example comes in Chaitanya also. Raghunath Goswami travels with Ramdas. Throughout the journey, Ramdas is always chanting all the time, taking the Lord names of Lord Ram. And when Chaitanya Prabhu meets him, he does not give a, like, he does not care for him. He does not speak to him much. And Raghunath Bhatta is confused. Why is Chaitanya Prabhu not giving any attention to Ramdas Vipra? And then he asks Chaitanya, he says, he is only chanting the Lord Ram's names is in his tongue, but in his heart, he is wanting to become that Lord Ram. And I'm not pleased with that attitude, he says. So bhakti may be there externally, but the attitude is to use that to become one and merge with the Brahman. And it's not, I'm not even speaking about becoming God. That is Mayavadi philosophy. That is different. That is not even bona fide. We are speaking here to become one with the Brahman, to realize the qualitative oneness with the Brahman. Vivikta Desha Sevitvam, this person aspires to be alone. This person aspires to be alone in a forest, and always interested in philosophical search for the absolute truth, not interested in knowing anything else. Tattva, to see, to engage in philosophical wrangling, like philosophical discussions, and to think like that and to see like that, everything through the jnana.